Hello, faithful viewers and friends. Welcome once again to Salvation TV. Today, beloved, I want to talk to you on the topic testing the spirit based on 1 John chapter 4, 1 through 3, where the Apostle John cautioned us, beloved. He cautioned us to make sure that we test the spirit, try the spirits that we are listening to, that are ministering to us, to make sure whether or not these spirits are sent by God. You know, in his time, over 2,000 years ago, the Apostle John, he had to contend with false prophets, people who were spreading false doctrines, namely in his day the Gnostics. This was a variation of Christianity, some people who went out and started their own religion and made up their own things. So John had to contend with the Gnostics, who believe that the world is divided into two parts: the physical, material world and the spiritual world. And they believe that everything that's physical is evil and everything that's spiritual is good. So that was the doctrine they were pushing, and their basic belief was that Jesus Christ was never come into the flesh. He was not incarnated. They see Jesus as all spirit and he's never flesh, which is a complete contradiction to Isaiah 9:6 prophecy, who prophesied that, behold, a virgin shall conceive and shall bring forth a son, a child, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. And the government shall be upon his shoulder, and of the increase of his kingdom there shall be no end. So from the description of the Christ child, you could tell that he would not be an ordinary person, because Isaiah said his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father. So Isaiah confirmed that Jesus, who is God in flesh, would eventually come, and as we know, he already came. But the Gnostics' teaching was that, Jesus was all spirit and never flesh. And what the devil is up to right here, beloved, is to rob us of the ability to have a personal relationship with the Lord. Because how can you have a personal relationship with a spirit that do not understand how you feel physically? And that was the main reason why Jesus became a man. And so the Apostle John in 1 John 1-4 said, beloved, believe not every spirit, but test the spirit to see whether they are of God, for there are a lot of false prophets that have gone out into the world. So John, as a father, as an elder in the faith, he was concerned for those who were young in the faith, because he know that they could be easily led astray. So he cautioned the believers to test the spirit. Don't just believe everything you hear any preacher or teacher said to you. Make sure you test the spirit. John said, here is one way you could know the false prophet. He said, any spirit that deny that Christ came into the flesh, this is the Antichrist spirit. That is anyone who denies the incarnation or the virgin birth. That is the Antichrist spirit. So John cautioned us to don't believe every spirit. Test the spirit. In Judges chapter 6, verse 36-37, we saw where God called Gideon to deliver Israel. And Gideon, wise as he were, said, well, God, if you really want to deliver Israel at my hand, let tonight I put a piece of cloth outside and let rain fall and let it be wet all around the cloth and let the cloth be dry, and I'll know if it's you who want to deliver Israel at my hand. And Gideon, wake up the next day, he saw that the ground was all wet and the cloth was dry. And Gideon just want to make sure that he tests the spirit to make sure that it's God sent him. He said again, Lord, be patient with me, but give me another test. Lord, let me put the cloth out there tonight and let the rain fall and soak the cloth and let it be dry around the cloth. And so Gideon put the cloth out there. The next day, the ground was dry and the cloth was wet. So Gideon was convinced that, God wanted him to deliver Israel. But my point is, beloved, Gideon made sure that he tests the spirit. And we also have to make sure we test the spirit. If you look in the records in Acts 16, verse 17, to 18, we saw where as Paul and the apostles was going about preaching the gospel of the kingdom, there were a little girl following them saying, these are the servants of God who have come to teach you the way of salvation. Believe them. And even though the spirit that was in that girl was talking the truth, and it kept on for days upon days. Eventually, it started to grieve Paul's spirit, and he commanded the spirit to come out of her because it was a devil. It was a demonic spirit in her that brought her master a fortune through her fortune telling or reading people fortune. But anybody would have believed that this person had the spirit of God in them. If she was in our time, a lot of ministers would have gladly taken her and make her a first elder in the church because she could predict people's future and stuff. She was a psychic spirit, but Paul had discernment to know the true spirit. And that is our first line of defense, beloved, against the Antichrist spirit, the false prophets. That is our first line of defense. We have to pray that God give us discernment. The word of God is an acid test of whether the spirit is of God, but the devil knows the Bible too, so we need discernment. And it was because of discernment Paul was able to discern that spirit that was speaking out of that young woman was not the spirit of God, and therefore he rebuked it and commanded to come out of her. Yes, beloved, so we have to test the spirit as 1 John 4, 1 through 3 said, beloved, test the spirit. He said, beloved, believe not all spirit, but test the spirit to see whether they are of God or not. Jesus in Matthew 7, 15 through 17 says, beware of false prophet that comes to you in sheep clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. He said, by their fruits you shall know them. He went on to say, do men gather grape of figs or grapes of thorn or thistle? No. Grape tree bring forth grape tree. Apple tree bring forth apple tree. Orange tree oranges. So Jesus said, by their fruits you shall know them. He said, a good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can an evil tree bring forth good fruit. So Jesus said, by their fruits you shall know them. You should see the fruits of righteousness in them. And the fruit, the Bible said the fruit of the Spirit in Galatians 5:22, the Bible said the fruit of the Spirit are love, kindness, meekness, temperance, patience, long-suffering, and he said, against these there is no law. So he said the fruit of the Spirit is love, kindness, meekness, patience, long-suffering, temperance. So whosoever said they come in the name of the Lord and do not have these fruits, they are a liar. We have to test the spirits, beloved. Revelation 16:13 through 15, John said, and I saw 3 unclean spirits like a frog come out of the mouth of the dragon and out of the mouth of the beast and out of the false prophets, and they went about, deceiving the nations and the leaders. Beloved, we have to test the spirit like John the apostle said in 1 John 1-3. Beloved, we have to test the spirit. Believe not every spirit. Isaiah 8:20 said, if to the law and to the prophet, if they speak not according to the word of God, then there is no truth in them. There is no light in them. Beloved, we have to test the spirit. Make sure we test what they are saying against the word of God. And that is why it is important, beloved, that we read and study the word of God for ourselves, especially in these last days when Satan has redoubled his effort to deceive and to lead millions of souls down to hell. So test the spirit, beloved. God bless y'all. Thank you for watching Salvation TV. Join me next time for more interesting and wonderful contents like this. And as always, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. God bless y'all. Shalom. Test the spirit.